let's have a look here. Let's do this one. Okay. Who was this from? This was from Agatha. So Agatha Madaka. This is a beautiful question. Okay. So Agatha, thank you for sending it to us, and we're going to work through it slowly. But there are a number of things here that you learners should know. Okay. And I'm going to check that you, because I can't, in a classroom situation, I could say to you, listen guys, do you know what DROMI stands for? And you could say, yes ma'am, we know. Or I could say, do you understand that what thyroxine does? Come on, put your hands up, do you know? So I don't have that. I'm going to go through everything to make sure that if you get a question like this in an exam, you're going to rock it. Okay, full marks. Boom, boom, boom. Right, here we go. An investigation was conducted. Now, remember, whenever they start with an investigation was conducted, I want you to look at what it was, because that will tell you what your different processes were and your dependent and what your independent variable is. Now, watch how clever this is. So, an investigation was conducted to determine the effects of different amounts of thyroxine and the metabolic rate. So which of these two would the scientist have, or the investigators or the researchers have decided to do? What is the focus? The focus is the metabolic rate and the effects of different amounts of thyroxine. They are going to decide how much of the thyroxine they're going to give, and how they're going to know how it worked with the metabolic rate. That will show the results. Now, okay, let's do this. The procedure was as follows. Now, look here, they have 9 healthy rats. 9 healthy rats is a good sample. And if it's a good sample, what does that tell us? It tells us that using healthy males, and it's a good sample size, we're now looking at the reliability, which is good. Okay, because they've got quite a number of samples. It goes to reliability. They were divided, these rats, into 3 groups, 3 rats of each in ABC. Okay, then all 3 groups were kept in the same environment in 3 separate cages. So they kept them separate, but they were in the same environment. So we've got 9 healthy males, which are similar. Okay, and because it's a nice sample size, it talks to reliability. They divided into 3 groups. All 3 groups are kept in the same environment. What does same tell us? Same tells us, or talks about the validity of the experiment. So you have to make sure that you keep what you are testing, so the metabolic rate, you make sure that all the other variables are taken into account so that they cannot impact your process. Okay, then each group received the same amount of water. Again, validity. Okay, each group was given a different diet. So this different diet is going to be where we're looking at the metabolic rate and different amounts of thyroxine. Their initial mass was taken. How do you know, or how would you test for metabolic rate? If you want to make it fast, what are you going to be able to see? You're going to see that the organism has lost weight because they're working harder on the same amount of food. Whereas if we want them to pick up weight, then we slow down the metabolism, because the result of that will be that anything they eat just goes to putting on weight. Okay, 3 weeks later, so it was done for a nice time. The time period is good. And again, that is going to talk to reliability. Okay, Their oxygen consumption was measured. So they measured mass and oxygen. So now let's look at what we've got. So people, nothing I've gone through here so far is difficult. It's actually very easy. Now we look here. It says diet X, food containing all the essential nutrients. Okay. Diet Y, food containing all the essential nutrients and an extract of thyroxine. And Z, food containing all the essential nutrients and a chemical that inhibits thyroxine. So here we have thyroxine and here we have no thyroxine. So this is part of our experiment and this is part of our experiment and this one here will be our control. It's the one where they're getting everything that's normal. So here they tell us, if we look at the table below, it says A, 8x. Initially they were 319 grams. After 3 weeks they were 321 grams. Remember, this is going to be normal. And that will be a normal increase. And the average oxygen consumption, which talks immediately directly to metabolism, how much energy you use. The more oxygen you use, the more energy you're going to make. The less oxygen, the less energy. Okay? Now we look at B and C. What would we expect for a diet Y where they were given an extract of thyroxine? So they're getting extra thyroxine. They are going to not gain weight. So we're going to find that, look at this here, 320 and 318. Remember, this initial is the average. But here, these guys picked up weight and these guys lost weight. And they picked up weight. So, and here their oxygen consumption is way through the roof. And these guys are just chilling. So that tells us that B was given diet Y. And that Z, where the guys had less, it stopped thyroxine. So it stopped normal thyroxine as well. Okay. It decreased normal because it inhibits thyroxine. These poor little guys had no thyroxine. Okay, so that would be Z. That's why they picked up so much weight. That's normal. This is too much. That's why they lose weight. And there, they pick up weight because there is none. Now that we understand what we are looking at, and in an exam, it would literally take you 2 minutes to do all of this, to figure all of this out. Okay? Before we do anything, I want to just show you this. I need space. Whenever you get an experiment, okay, or an investigation, you will always be asked, the following. They're going to want to know your dependent and independent variables. They are going to ask you about validity. And they're going to ask you about reliability of the investigations. What makes this investigation valid? What makes it reliable? What impacts validity? How would you improve the validity? How would you improve the reliability? And you can't answer any of those if you don't know what it means. So here we go. I need for you to pay careful attention. Right, so we're going to tackle dependent and independent variables. So firstly, your dependent variable, sorry, let's do independent, it's the easiest one. Variable. So So your independent variable, number 1, is the focus of the investigation. In this case, what was the focus of our investigation? Go up to the question. What was the focus? It was the different amounts of thyroxine. So it was, what does thyroxine do? And what is its impact? How would we know? We look at the metabolic rate. Okay? So it's the focus of the investigation. That's number 1. Number 2, determined by the researcher. The researcher or the scientist, it's what they decide. Okay, they decide what it is that, how much time they're going to do, how much time they're going to run the experiment for, whether they're going to use a whole bunch of different things to provide something. Okay, it's the focus of the investigation. They generally tell you what it is in the first line. And secondly, it's determined by the researcher. All right, and it's always, what am I doing measured? Plotted on the x-axis. Okay, so if you were going to do a graph, it would be plotted on the x-axis. Let's think, no, I'm not going to do that. All right, then your dependent variable, okay, it depends on what the scientists decide. For dependent variable, I want you to remember this. It's a mnemonic. D-R-O-M-Y. So if you test it, test DROMI, you will know whether it's dependent or independent. DROMI stands for the dependent or responding variable. Okay, that is observed, okay, or measured. So it responds, it's the result. Observed or measured and plotted on the y-axis. Okay, that's your dependent variable. And if you remember that, awesome. We've got very little time. Just want to quickly do this. Your reliability. You are always going to repeat. So if they ask you, how would you improve the reliability? Repeat the experiment or investigation. Okay, you're going to increase number, sample number, and you can also calculate averages. Okay, that talks to reliability, while validity, with validity we talk about how the experiment was done and if it is scientifically sound. And how would you do that? You would always add the word same. So just quickly, got 1 minute left here. If we look here, it told you the same amount of water, they were given the same amount of water, and you're looking at the oxygen consumption. Where else did we have same? Oh, they were put in the same environment, etc., etc. So let's just quickly see if we can finish this. Okay, name the groups A, B, C in which the average mass of the rats increased. Well, look here. There it went from 19 to 21. Here it went from 18 to 40, so it was in A and C. For this investigation, what is your dependent variable? Your dependent variable is going to be the amount of thyroxine. Okay, and your dependent variable, first, because there are two parts to this question, your dependent variable is going to be your metabolic rate. Okay, how was it measured? Well, it was measured by checking mass, by measuring the mass and oxygen consumption. And if you look here, there's your mass and your average oxygen consumption. Okay, people, time's up. I have to go. I'm going to finish this question next week, no matter what we're doing. We're doing plants. We're doing hormone, at least the hormone processes and reactions to the environment of plants. Have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, work hard, and you know what? I know you can do it. Forget COVID. You are going to get the best matric result you've ever had before. Okay, have an awesome week. Stay safe. Mwah.